The hum of the tube amps warms the recycled air, a low thrumming under the clatter of Lex's typewriter and Kaylin's quiet tapping on the antenna. Dust motes dance in the single shaft of light cutting through the power substation's grimy window, while outside, the Libertad haze softens the harsh edges of the morning.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
Libertad checks in at 77 degrees and smoky haze. Airflow is north at about 2 miles per hour.
The official report from NAPIDA mentioned cardiac arrest for Julian Thorne, a U.S. diplomat, just hours after he met with local resistance leaders regarding resource exploitation in the Shan state. The immediate consequence is the chilling effect on other foreign envoys considering outreach to independent groups, potentially isolating 15 to 20 vulnerable communities in Shan and Kachin states.
My meters are picking up significant data suppression around NAPIDA on the usual channels, a classic tactic to obscure the trail. This feels less like a medical event and more like a deliberate act designed to send a very specific message about the price of external solidarity. The local activists who met Thorne are now directly exposed to increased scrutiny, facing potential detention by state administration council forces.
A faint crackle of distant static bleeds into the studio, then resolves into a voice, sharp and unyielding. Patching in a caller. You're on the signal. S.
Togee, this is Amir. Regarding this diplomat's death in Myanmar, who truly pays the long-term cost for this kind of official denial? Does it fall on the international community to escalate, or are the local resistance movements left to bear the full burden of this unfortunate accident?
Same dossier, new angle. Keep the thread tight. 2 killed in Kabul during a rare street demonstration over women's rights. The tension here is between a suppressed populace asserting fundamental human rights and a regime hell-bent on enforcing its oppressive doctrines.
Debrief like designers, log the friction, script a small rule bend, and try it live.
Reports from the UN assistance mission in Afghanistan, UNAMA, confirmed 2 women, believed to be university students, were shot by Taliban security forces during a protest against mandatory burqa laws and education bans in the Shah-e-Nah district of Kabul. This brutal suppression exposes the Taliban's zero-tolerance policy for dissent, likely emboldening hardliners within the regime, and further shrinking civil society space for at least 15 to 20 women's advocacy groups previously operating in secret.
This echoes the historical patterns of regimes attempting to erase women from public life, a tactic as old as the Parthenon's missing caryatids. The cultural signal is clear. Resistance will be met with force, yet the act of public protest itself, even if short-lived, becomes a potent symbol carried in whispered narratives and coded messages among the women who remain. It becomes a lineage of defiance.
Patching in a caller. Go ahead.
This is Amir again. With the Taliban's iron grip on Afghanistan, what practical benefit does a protest like this actually yield beyond further loss of life? Who truly bears the cost when global powers have largely disengaged, leaving these women to face such brutality alone?
From that dossier to this one, Trump says Bill Pulte will execute the immediate. Amir, the immediate tragic cost is undeniable, borne by the brave women on the streets. Yet the long-term benefit is the indelible mark of defiance in the historical record, a counter-narrative against total erasure. One viable alternative would be for humanitarian organizations to push for increased conditional aid tied directly to women's access to education and public life. Our chosen next move, however, involves bolstering the clandestine networks, like the Pen and Scroll initiative, which provide underground education and digital literacy to Afghan girls. This builds a resilient internal intellectual architecture, ensuring knowledge survives, regardless of external pressures. Now, let's turn to the curious case of Bill Pulte and the US intelligence community. Donald Trump announced Bill Pulte will execute the immediate downsizing of the intelligence community. The tension here is between an incoming administration's stated intent to dismantle established national security apparatus and the critical functions these agencies perform.
Trump's statement identified Bill Pult, a venture capitalist known for his Twitter philanthropy and not for intelligence expertise, as the individual tapped to oversee this significant overhaul of the 18 agencies comprising the U.S. intelligence community. The immediate consequence is a profound destabilization of morale among career intelligence professionals, potentially 100,000 to 150,000 individuals, and a severe degradation of the nation's ability to respond to complex global threats, from cyber warfare to state-sponsored espionage.
This move feels less like strategic reform and more like a symbolic purge, evoking historical echoes of leaders dismantling institutions perceived as disloyal, from Diocletian's purges to political commissars after revolutions. It's a cultural signal of distrust cast from the top, designed to re-architect loyalty by fracturing existing internal structures. Who carries this next? The whistleblowers, the internal dissenters, and the foreign adversaries keen to exploit perceived vulnerabilities.
We've got someone.
Togee, this is Amir one last time. When a former president declares his intent to downsize the intelligence community with a figure like Bill Pult, what's the actual cost to national security beyond just internal morale? And is there any mechanism to prevent such a radical restructuring, or is it just accepted as a political prerogative?
Amir, the cost extends far beyond morale. It's a direct hit on institutional memory, expertise, and established counter-terrorism and counter-espionage operations. A viable alternative would be for congressional oversight committees to initiate immediate bipartisan hearings to scrutinize any proposed changes, ensuring due process and national security safeguards. Our chosen next move, however, emphasizes internal resilience. Independent journalistic outlets, in coordination with former intelligence officers, should establish secure channels for documenting potential breaches of protocol or law during this transition, building an immutable record for future accountability. This is about building a provable architecture of truth, even as others try to tear down existing structures. We're out of time for more calls, but your questions, Amir, are the scaffolding for our collective discernment.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
Continue the signal at TogeeVision.com. Tune in, Sparks and Stories, Gig Passport.